After 65, a cough that keeps returning is not just a cough. It is a signal that something underneath has changed, and every suppressant you have tried has been answering the wrong question. In 40 years of practice, I have helped hundreds of our elders move through exactly this kind of returning cough. And today, I am giving you everything I know. The three ingredients, the preparation, the hidden reason this works for some people and not others, and the one factor almost no one considers that determines whether the remedy your body receives is the full strength version or a shadow of it. Come on in, my children. I am Mama Aisha Diallo. For more than 40 years, I have served my community through ancestral plant medicine here in Atlanta, grounded in the teachings my grandmother carried from the Fouta Jalan highlands of Guinea. She learned from her mother. I learned from her. Years walking alongside Caribbean bush doctors and gullah root workers here in the American South deepened what she gave me, and everywhere I looked, the teaching converged on the same truth. The kitchen is the pharmacy. It always has been. But before I give you the preparation, I need to share something that took me years to understand clearly, because it is the reason this remedy works beautifully for some people and barely touches others. And once you hear it, you will never approach a returning cough the same way again. My grandmother used to say that the lungs speak what the belly cannot settle. Our tradition understood long before any researcher named it that the gut shapes everything about how the body defends itself, how it manages inflammation, how powerfully it fights what enters through the nose and throat, and how long it can sustain that defense before it runs out of ground to stand on. After 65, the beneficial bacteria living in the gut drops by as much as 40% compared to what we carried in our 30s. 40% is not a minor shift. That is the difference between a body that resolves a chest cough in 4 days and a body that carries the same cough through 2 winters and wonders why nothing is working. The women of the Fouta Jalan Highlands built their seasonal preparations with this understanding embedded in every step. The remedy was never only about the throat, it was about feeding the root system the body draws on to protect the throat. That is the missing piece most modern versions of this preparation leave out entirely. And it is exactly why I am going to give you more than just a recipe today. Stay with me through all of it, because the step most people miss comes at the end, and it is the step that determines whether everything else you do reaches its full strength. Let me tell you who carries the kind of cough we are addressing today, because I want you to recognize yourself in this. It starts as a tickle, something minor, something you expect to resolve in a day or two. But it does not resolve. By night 3, you are sleeping propped on 2 pillows because lying flat makes the coughing worse. By the end of the first week, your ribs ache from the effort, your sleep has broken into 2-hour fragments, and you are moving through the next day slower than you should be. You reach for a suppressant, and the cough quiets briefly, and then it returns. You finish the first bottle and buy another one. Somewhere in the 3rd week, the fear begins to settle in alongside the cough. Not just fear of this particular illness, but the heavier fear of what it means that your body is struggling to shake something it used to resolve in 3 days. That fear is telling you something real, not that things are hopeless, that the approach needs to change. If any of that is familiar, this video was made for you. The 3 ingredients are fresh ginger root, raw garlic, and unprocessed raw honey. Each carries a specific role inside the body, and together they do something none of them can accomplish alone. One of these 3 is almost universally mishandled, and when you mishandle it, you lose most of its benefit before it ever reaches the airway. Ginger root, Zingiber officinale, carries volatile compounds called gingerols and shogaols. When simmered gently in water, these compounds absorb through the mucous membranes of the throat and upper airways and begin reducing the inflammatory response in the tissue itself. Think of an inflamed airway as a corridor pressed in from both sides. Ginger encourages those walls to ease back so the passage can open and the body can clear. For those of us over 65, this carries particular weight because many standard anti-inflammatory medications carry risks for kidney function over extended use. Ginger supports the same process through a different pathway, and it has done so in the hands of traditional healers across West Africa and the Caribbean for generations. The researchers are now publishing what the grandmothers already practiced, but ginger alone will not carry you all the way home. The next ingredient is where most modern preparations quietly fail. Raw garlic, when properly crushed, releases a compound called allicin. The whole clove keeps allicin locked inside. The crush is what releases it, and allicin carries antimicrobial and antiviral properties documented across our tradition long before any laboratory confirmed them with instruments. Uncrushed garlic does not deliver what we are working toward. Chopped garlic delivers a fraction. Pressed garlic with the flat of the hand or the heel of a knife until you feel the clove release delivers the full compound. This is the step most modern versions of this recipe leave out entirely, and it is the single reason most modern versions do not work the way the old women's did. And raw honey, unprocessed and unfiltered, coats the mucosal surface of the throat and gives ginger and garlic the time they need to do their work. It carries its own antimicrobial enzymes. It is not sweetener. It is medicine, but only if you add it at the right moment. Processed grocery honey has often been heated until its enzyme activity is gone. Look for raw and unfiltered on the label. That is a genuinely different product, and the difference shows up in what your throat receives. Here is the preparation, step by step. Slice 1 thumb length of fresh ginger root into 3 or 4 thin rounds. Press 2 cloves of garlic flat against the cutting board with the heel of your hand until you feel and hear them release. Do not chop them, press them. The crush activates the allicin and the knife does not. Place both ginger and pressed garlic into cold water in a small pot. Bring it slowly to a gentle simmer, not a rolling boil, a gentle simmer, low and steady. Hold it there for 10 to 12 minutes. A rolling boil drives off the volatile ginger compounds we have spent this entire preparation preserving. The heat must stay even from beginning to end. Strain into your cup, then wait. Let the liquid cool until it feels warm against the inside of your wrist. Not hot, not lukewarm. Warm. This is the step almost everyone skips, and it is the step that separates what you are making from what the grandmothers actually made. Only after it reaches that warmth, add 1 heaping tablespoon of raw honey. Honey poured into a steaming cup loses significant enzyme activity before it touches the throat. The heat destroys what makes it medicinal before it can reach the tissue that needs it. Add it after the liquid has cooled to wrist warm. Stir slowly. Take it 2 to 3 times daily from the first sign of a cough. Most people find the cough shifting within 24 hours, moving from dry and stuck to productive. By day 3, the change is usually meaningful. But here is what almost everyone gets wrong. They stop when the improvement begins. The cough eases, and the preparation stops, and the cough returns within days, usually stronger than before because the underlying tissue had not yet finished healing. Continue through day 5 at minimum every time without exception. If you are managing a blood thinner or a kidney condition, speak with your doctor before adding significant raw garlic to your daily routine. That conversation matters. If this teaching is reaching you, take 1 second and subscribe to this channel. I put out this kind of knowledge every single week, and I want you here for what comes next. Now let me tell you about Dorothy, 72 years old, retired librarian from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Dorothy came to me the 3rd winter she had spent fighting the same returning chest cough. 2 antibiotic courses in the prior year, 2 rounds of suppressants, a steam inhaler her daughter had purchased. Every time the cough seemed to ease, it returned, a little deeper each season, a little more resistant to whatever she reached for. What Dorothy had never been told was what was happening underneath. Those antibiotic courses had done exactly what they were designed to do. They cleared the infection, but they had also stripped significant beneficial bacteria from her gut in the process, and her diet offered very little to rebuild them. She had seeds, but no soil, and without soil, seeds cannot take root. Without that root, her body could not sustain the immune response long enough to fully resolve what kept coming through the airway. The cough was not stubborn. The terrain was thin. We started Dorothy on the 3-ingredient preparation twice daily. We made two meaningful changes to what she was eating. The cough began to ease. But here is the part of Dorothy's story I want to be specific about, because it is where the real turning point came. After 6 weeks, her cough had reduced significantly, but a low, persistent tightness in the chest remained. The root system was still thin. The preparation had addressed the airway. The diet changes had helped, but her gut terrain, depleted by 2 years of antibiotics and a diet without enough to rebuild from, needed something her body could no longer produce on its own at 72. That is when we added gut terrain support, seeds and soil and water, all three together. Within 3 weeks of that addition, the chest tightness cleared. She told me, "Mama Aisha, I did not know a chest could feel that open. What we added, and what I want to be careful and specific about recommending, took me years to find. After 4 decades in plant medicine, I have watched people spend real money on incomplete solutions. Probiotics that arrive without prebiotic fiber to feed them and pass through the body without ever taking root. Prebiotic products with nothing alive to activate them. Postbiotic formulas disconnected from the living foundation that generates them. The pieces keep arriving separately, and the body needs all three working together the way a garden requires seeds, soil, and water at the same time. One without the others is a partial answer. 3 years ago, a researcher I had worked alongside for years introduced me to a formulation she had spent 18 months evaluating before she brought it to me. I did not say yes immediately. I took it home. I told her nothing. I spent 6 weeks on it, through a difficult pollen season and into early winter before I spoke a single word to anyone. What I noticed in my own digestion, my own energy, and my own respiratory resilience during that period was enough for me to begin recommending it carefully to the people who come to me for guidance. I have been recommending it for 3 years now. Dorothy is one of the people who found her way to it. What I use, and what I now recommend to anyone whose gut terrain needs rebuilding, is BoochBod. It is a kombucha gummy. Berry flavored, not a pill. That matters for those of us whose stomach has become more selective with the years. It carries lactospore and postbiotics LM1004, two clinically studied strains, alongside prebiotic fiber, postbiotics, dandelion root, and slippery elm. Dandelion root and slippery elm are plants our tradition has used for gut strength and respiratory support for generations. They are not newcomers in this formula. They are old allies, long trusted, given a form that works for older bodies. Over 30,000 people are using it. The link is in the description below, and it comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. If you take it for 60 days and feel nothing meaningful, you pay nothing. That is the confidence they carry in what they have made, and it is confidence I share based on what I witnessed in Dorothy, in myself, and in the people I have recommended it to since. As always, speak with your doctor before starting any new supplement. That conversation belongs between you and your physician. 3 supporting habits I want to leave you with because they compound everything you are doing. A morning turmeric steep. 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric with a small pinch of black pepper stirred into warm water, taken before anything else. The black pepper increases how much of turmeric's active compounds your body actually absorbs. Healers across the West African diaspora have used turmeric preparations for respiratory and inflammatory support for generations, and the research community is now publishing what the grandmothers practiced long before the studies were run. This is a 2-minute habit that costs almost nothing and accumulates quietly. Daily steam during an active cough, dried peppermint, or a few drops of eucalyptus oil in a bowl of just boiled water. Face over the bowl with a towel draped over your head, 5 to 7 minutes. The airways relax and the body clears more efficiently. During a bad cough week, do this 3 times a day. You will feel the difference each time. Rest taken as medicine. In our tradition, slowing down when the body calls for it has always been counted as wisdom, not weakness. After 60, the immune system cannot mount a full response without genuine sleep and genuine recovery. Rest is not something that happens separately from the remedy. It is part of the prescription itself. Before we close, 3 mistakes that cost people most of what they are trying to build. The first is a hard boil. Every time this preparation reaches a rolling boil, you are driving off the volatile ginger compounds the entire recipe depends on. Gentle simmer, low and steady from beginning to end. That is the only heat this preparation should ever meet. The second is honey added too soon. Let the cup cool to wrist warm, then add the honey and stir slowly. Honey in a steaming cup loses its medicine before it reaches the throat. These 30 seconds of patience are not optional. The third is stopping early. Continue through day 5 at minimum, even when the cough eases at day 2 or 3. The improvement is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that the work is in progress. Stop before it is finished and you invite the cough back, usually within days. Let me say something before we close, my people. You did not find this video only for a cough remedy. You came because you want your mornings back. Not the mornings that begin with a long clearing session before you can speak a full sentence. The mornings where you wake up breathing easily and you stay that way. You came because you want to be fully present with your grandchildren without running out of breath on the stairs. You came because you want the Sunday calls where your voice carries through the whole conversation. And if you are honest with yourself, you came because last winter scared you a little and you are not willing to arrive at the next one the same way. That is what we are protecting here, and it is worth every bit of effort. It is never too late. The body at 70, at 75, at 80 is still capable of meaningful recovery when it receives what it truly needs. You are not a passenger in this, waiting for someone else to write the prescription. You are the one who decides. You always have been. Here is what I want you to do right now. Go to the description below and look at the BoochBod link. Read what is there. It comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee, which means you have nothing to lose and a winter without that cough to gain. That is my recommendation to you from 40 years of practice, from what I watched carry Dorothy across the finish line, from what I tested quietly on myself for 6 weeks before I said a word to anyone, from what I believe will work for you. Subscribe if you have not yet, and leave me a comment below. Has a cough like this been following you through more than one season? I want to know your story, and I read every single comment on this channel. Until next time, my people.